Welcome to the Underground, the Steel City Underground, the black and gold standard for Pittsburgh Steelers coverage. Now, here's your host, Joe Kuzma and Brian E. Roach.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Steel City Underground podcast. It's a Victory Monday here with myself. I am your host, Joe Kuzma, and my good colleague, buddy and pal of one, Mr. Brian E. Roach. Brian, how you feeling on a Victory Monday? A win is a win is a win, right?
A win is a win is a win. I was getting... I attempted to go into that game with a very low-key, I'm going to stay calm, and I did not succeed in getting through the game in that emotional state. But I was glad that at the end of it, I wasn't losing my mind.
At one point, there was some radio silence from Brian. He wasn't texting me anymore. He probably looked a little like Mike Tomlin here, just screaming, yelling. Maybe you were throwing a multitude of your styrofoam bricks at the television. Hopefully you didn't break anything.
No, my phone just died. That was the only reason.
Oh,
I had to put it on the charger.
How convenient that is.
Otherwise, you'd have been getting a lot of rage texts.
No, I was getting a rage text from my cousin Brad. He actually went. Yeah. He went to Foxborough. He was there, and he said the Patriots fans were Pat Patriot and all with their throwbacks and the whole whatever was going on with CBS and the NFL yesterday. I don't know if you caught some of that with the throwback. They went back to 1975 or whatever, and had Nate Burleson with the flared collar and brought Brett Musburger out, which was kind of cool to see too. Yeah. You know, that was neat. But Pat Patriot and everything. They didn't like Aaron Rodgers, and there was some audible booing that you could hear at various points throughout the game. But man, folks, seriously, when you're a Steelers fan and you are at an away game, don't go. Maybe you could wave your towel. It's distracting. I'm sure the players aren't paying 100% attention to it, but don't go screaming and yelling and adding the crowd noise when our offense is on the field. Please, I was telling the fiance that yesterday. I was just like, those are one of the things that drives me crazy, because it's like, oh well, we need to match the intensity and be louder than the fans that are here at home. And it's like, no, crowd noise is the home advantage. Stop doing that, please. I don't understand it. Maybe they just get drunk and unruly and out of control. Who knows? But getting into this and maybe trying to keep our post game a little shorter than usual, because we've got some travel preparations here as we prepare, myself and Brian, to head out to Dublin, Ireland, where we'll catch you later this week with the pregame show and the preview for the Minnesota Vikings, who with Carson Wentz rolled over the Cincinnati Bengals minus a Joe Burrow. So but that was a home game for Minnesota too. I don't know. I don't always like to carry over. We'll talk about that one later. But this one was a nail-biter. Steelers finally get their first win at Gillette Stadium back in 2008. Never able to get over the hump with Bill Belichick and Tom Brady. They were able to do it here. 21-14. We'll talk about how it wasn't, it wasn't the cleanest of games. Obviously, it was far from perfect. But again, a win is a win. You'd rather be 2-1. Rather be 3-0. They might have had a winnable game with Seattle, and there were some things that they actually did clean up in this game, or did better, or improved upon, or went their way better. You had some real highs and lows in this, you know what I mean? But when you look at, I don't know if you watched any of the Sunday night game, but when you look at what Russell Wilson could not do anything against Kansas City at home, then Giants just, it looked so bad. But it was good for my fantasy team. I'm going to humble brag real quick. I went in up 7 points, and Malik Neighbors needed to play the night game, and through 3 quarters, he didn't even have a catch. So thank you, Kansas City, for the dub in the fantasy world. But the Steelers, they generate 5 turnovers. We know that we're going to say, hey, can you be turnover dependent? Well, that's kind of the name of the game. You look at the teams that have been playing in the big game for a few years now, and Kansas City's creating turnovers. The Eagles, very opportunistic. So I'm not going to say much about that. The Steelers get to where they are because they are a team that makes splash plays. Is it sustainable? We know it's not. But there's a lot. There's some things to talk about, really, because there's some really ugly stuff, and then there's some stuff where I see improvement. And let's just jump into maybe the offense, Brian.
Sure.
The first drive or two I felt like the offensive line was doing great. The holes were wide open for the run game. And then all of a sudden it wasn't all that great. And Rodgers was getting pressured a lot. And he hadn't been able to have much time to... It's been the whole story through 3 games. The guy hasn't had time to throw the ball. But when he does, you still see a flash of who was an elite quarterback, future Hall of Famer, makes the big plays. That's the difference that maybe the Steelers haven't had the last 2-3 years.
So here's an interesting thing, and it's boggled my mind because I watched the game, right? I certainly felt like the majority of the second and third quarters and early in the fourth that Rodgers was under a lot of pressure. According to the statistics, Rodgers was pressured 4 times.
I know, right?
4 times. I'm like, all right, I clearly don't know what a pressure is. But to me, it was much worse.
We were trying to figure that out. Remember the win rate percentage or whatever that they gave
nonsense.
Garrett, the defensive player? Yeah, it's nonsense.
Yeah, it's nonsense. Rodgers was forced to move several times. He looked like a 41-year-old quarterback at times. Badly, I mean, the interception was a horrible throw. Badly threw had another couple of awful throws. But then, as you said, the throw to Calvin Alston to win the game, that was a beautiful throw. Absolutely fantastic, gorgeous throw. But that's to be expected. He's a 41-year-old quarterback. You're going to have flashes of who he was, and you're going to have flashes of who he is. I felt like I'm still frustrated with the way that the play calling is put together, the game plans are put together, and what appears to be the refusal to try and change up things when teams adjust. Now that's a common complaint about this team and has been for years, but it is very obvious that it's possible to shut down the run game for this team if you decide to do so. And I find that it does not seem like our receivers are doing what they need to do to get open, whether it's scramble drills, whatever. Clearly, they're not always on the same page. I mean, Rodgers was clearly frustrated with Pat Frymuth in one play because he thought maybe Pat was going to sit down on a route.
Yeah, I was reading
Pat
his lips.
Kept going. Mm-hmm. And that was very obvious that he was very frustrated by that. I think it's just going to be hit or miss. Look, they did enough to win this game, and they weren't the reason they could have lost. They weren't turning the ball over 5 times. Yes, they weren't productive. You look at the numbers. If they don't get those turnovers, they don't win this game, clearly, and it's probably a really ugly loss. But they did, and we walked out with a win. So hey.
Yeah, on that note too, I mean, if you saw or got any hint of what happened in that Cleveland game, Cleveland was dominated for 3.5 quarters against Green Bay, and some people calling in. I love listening to the post-game show, especially since I've always been a fan of Mike Pursuta. And then Charlie Batch, people call in and kiss his ass all the time. Hey, Charlie's such a great quarterback. And it's like, okay, dude, whatever. We love you, Charlie. And it's like, I get it. It's the local love. But I'm just like, really? You're wasting your 30 seconds of call time on this. Take a chill pill, dude. But the people that complain, and Pursuta, he's pretty good at. Somebody actually called in and they were like, you know what, guys, hats off to you. You do a really good job of, you deal with a lot of jerks that call into the show, and you kind of, I don't want to say put positive spin, but they don't lose their cool on some of the people. And they were saying, what does it take for someone that, there was 2 paradigms of people that called in, because there was one that's like, I've been a fan since the 70s, and we've grown accustomed to this is supposed to be this standard and this and that. And I said, yeah, there's the entitled fan. You're at 2-1. Somebody had talked about, if they didn't have Mike Tomlin, where might you be? Look at the Houston Texans. They're 0-3 right now because there's a lack of experience with the coaching and the players, and you thought CJ Stroud was the next guy and everything like that. So I try to put that into perspective. I understand they may not have faced you're probably going to find out that Seattle is a playoff team. The Jets are they're competing. Tyrod Taylor got them in that game yesterday. They came back, almost beat Tampa Bay. I know almost only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades. Well, same difference here. Steelers still got that 21-14 victory. They're 2-1. It's an important win too, because this is an AFC game, so they've got something that's a tiebreaker with what will be common opponents too, because everyone's playing the AFC East. And you know what? They didn't look half bad on offense to start. Like I said, there were some holes in the run game, and they scored on the first 2 drives. They got the one ball off the fumble, and then they forced a punt. It was only a 6-play drive, the 3-play drive that the defense forced, then a 6-play drive. And you're thinking, hey, this is finally turning around. Then all of a sudden, it's just like they let the foot off the gas or something. Like, they just couldn't do anything. I mean, Jaylen Warren ends up 18 carries for 47 yards, 2.6 average, which it seems so miserable to look at this, because it's the same thing like your quarterback pressures. I'm like, oh, Warren had a pretty good game. He caught 5 passes for 34 yards. He was getting first downs. He was getting some chunks where it really mattered, where we said we weren't sure this team could gain a yard where it needed to, and it made some things manageable. But there were a lot of things that were miscommunication, like you were saying with Pat Freiermuth. Jonnu Smith, same thing. It's not clean. They're not on the same page just yet. And even to case in point, DK Metcalf, grown-ass man catch. This was DK Metcalf being a grown-ass man, being bigger, being more athletic, being all the way everything. This dude, look, he's got his arm trapped inside as he catches this ball. If you can see it on the image here. What a hell of a play. And this is something they did work on in training camp frequently, was, that flag route in the corner. The Calvin Austin one, I didn't say it here, but I said it to you. I said hell of a run, and I meant hell of a route. Calvin Austin had like that little stutter step, boom, that 4.2 1/4 or whatever, 2.5, 4.25 40 speed, and just beats the guy. And Rodgers puts some zip on the ball, and boom, it's right where it needs to be. I think those things come more with time, so it's good to see those flashes. Unfortunately, we still see the flashes of not so good stuff. And I mean, how often are you going to have a guy that throws for 139 yards and still throws one interception and still win a game? You should with 5 turnovers, but maybe a little bit more credit to New England. Maybe we don't know quite what they are defensively. Maybe I'm not giving those other professionals enough kudos, but the Steelers offense absolutely stalled after those first 2 drives, could not do anything until it mattered right at the end.
Yeah, I'm not going to give a lot of credit to New England on this. I mean, I think they played a good game. They have a decent line. Don't get me wrong. They were getting pressed. I mean, they were leading the league in sacks, right? They didn't get a single sack. So, but they did, they do have a decent rush. With Christian Gonzalez not playing, you have to question whether their secondary is as good as it could be.
Yeah.
But, they held up fine. And that's the concern, is that there just aren't guys open, or he's missing the guys that are open. I mean, it is very difficult to tell watching TV coverage, what actually is there and what isn't. It's usually easier to tell in stadium, or if we went back and watched the All-22 or something. But in initial reactions, it's hard to tell. But he clearly, you just see him making a lot of pumps and a lot of I'm going and then not, because they're not open, or he doesn't think they're open, and that's concerning. When he had a little more time during this game, he still couldn't find guys, not consistently. 139 yards is generally speaking not going to win you a lot of games. Your defense plays the way, and gets the ball takeaway, and we should, because there's a big, glass half full, glass half empty with the defense.
Yeah, we'll get there.
They still gave up a lot, but
how about the amount of negative plays that the offense had? I think that's the biggest thing.
That was a problem.
Yeah,
100%.
Fontaine gets tagged with the one false start, and you're just it's never ending. I thought the offensive line played better. Mason McCormick is still kind of.
Mason McCormick. There's 3 run plays, and these are run plays where Mason McCormick starts just to block in, and his guy moves, and so he just kind of wanders. It's like, okay, I don't have anybody to block. I'm like, no, put your freaking head in there and hit somebody, because then the guy that goes right past him makes the tackle. Yeah. I am not impressed with Mason McCormick right now at all. We'll see. And having a weak spot right there in the middle of that line, that's going to be a problem. I did think Broderick had a better game again, or at least a game similar to the last game where it wasn't a turnstile. So I do think he's improving, which is good. They need to clean up the pre-snap problems, jump offsides.
Frazier had one too, I think.
Yeah.
False start.
False start. They just gotta, they gotta be cleaner, and they have to get more on the same page. And I don't know. At some point, you have to try something different. Do they need to put Caleb Johnson in a little bit and see what he can do? I don't know. I don't know the answer to this run game, but it's not. You're not going to win a lot of games or generate a lot of offense when you can only run for 50 yards a game.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, you're not going to expect Rodgers to sling it all over the field. And keeping him a little cleaner. I was bothered by NFL radio this morning. Solomon Wilcots, I'm not sure who he had on. I don't know if it was Brian Hoyer or Ryan Lee for one of these guys, former quarterbacks, but it said something that the Steelers did nothing to impress them, and this was like a moral victory for the Patriots, even though they lost on the scoreboard because they did all these great things. I'm like, how is it a moral victory when Ramondre Stevenson, who's a known culprit when it comes to protecting the football, can't do so the entire game? You could have a young quarterback that plays decently well, and I have a lot of respect for Drake May. I think he's going to continue to be good. 75.7% completion percentage. The Steelers got a lot more pressure on him, but when let's flip over the defense now. It's probably a good time to talk about that, because to say the Steelers did nothing impressive is an understatement of what the first two games looked like. Like on the first two games, it was first down every down. You know what I mean? And while the Patriots still ran for 119 yards, the main core of the backs here, 7 carries, 45 yards, was Drake May. And they didn't, as we said, how are they going to guard him? Well, they didn't worry about him so much like a Lamar Jackson, a Justin Fields, anybody like that, which was what we were speculating. You had Travion Henderson gets a little more time in this game. He only had 2.5 yards per carry. That's the reason he hadn't been on the field ahead of Stevenson and Antonio Gibson, who were both doing a little bit better, but they put the ball on the floor how many times between those guys? 2-3 times? And I know the Steelers could have absolutely had their ass handed to them if Cam Hayward or Peyton Wilson, that fumble on the goal line. And then at some point, like later in the game, Brandon Echols, who ends up kind of being a defensive MVP here, a guy that's probably not supposed to be playing as much as, or expected to play as much as he ends up playing. He ends up with an interception in the end zone. And then after the Steelers have been incapable of getting off the field defensively, they force these third and longs. They give it up, or they give up enough to make it fourth and short. The Patriots were 4 for 4 on fourth down up to this final offensive play that they had. And then all of a sudden, they unleashed the hounds there. They got Jalen Ramsey was right in Drake May's face. That's a short little throw behind the line, hoping to get a little catch and run for the extra yards, fake him out a little bit, and Brandon Echols makes a beautiful freaking tackle, and they call game on it. And that's all the more you could ask for, is getting it in crunch time. And by the way, Brian, I texted you, is he going to show up today? And he showed up. TJ Watt finally showing up on the stat sheet and causing some havoc.
Yeah. The defense actually looked pretty solid in the first few quarters. And they then, they give up like a 17-play drive, no points because of the interception. Another like 13 or 15-play drive. Like they had the same problems that they've been having, right? They can't get, how many third and longs? Third and long is like a guaranteed first down against this defense.
Yeah.
It's just ridiculous. You can't be 3rd and 14 and give up a first down, and 3rd and 12 and 3rd and 10. It's just, constantly happening. Or, they get right at the edge and it's so close that they're going to go for it. It was such a sign of disrespect for this defense that Mike Vrabel went for it in his own end early in the game. And was it like, this is Mike Vrabel, who never goes for it on fourth down, has a history of not doing so. And he just basically said, you guys suck. We can get this, and I'm not going to worry about it.
It was like their 19-yard line or something. They were 6 of 13, 46%, which again, the stats don't seem to, but when they didn't get it there, they were almost perfect up to that last play on 4th down. So the 7 that they didn't get, they had gotten 4 of those, half of those on the 4th down because they went for it. Oh,
they just can't get off the field, and they have to figure out a way to do better. Yes, they were absolutely saved by the turnovers. The interceptions, the fumbles, all those things. And look, we've said it for years. This defense thrives on turnovers. The team talks about it all the time. Turnover culture. That's what they preach. And that's when they are at their best, is when they're getting these. So that's great. But you know what? If you get 5 turnovers in a game and you still are at risk of losing,
that's bad.
That's just really bad. And that combination is not, as you said at the beginning, it's not sustainable. Do I feel happy about the win? Yes, I'm happy we got a win. The bobblehead is very happy that we got a win since he predicted a win. But I don't feel good about the direction of the team so much. I still am concerned that there's a lot of things broken that need to be fixed before you start playing high-powered teams, one of which might be potentially next week. I mean, they've got what they put up 41 on the Bengals or something like that.
A lot of that was defense too. That one corner did something that no one's ever done in NFL history, and he did it all in the first half. So they were picking Jake Browning's pockets. I don't think that.
Yeah, that's terrible. He's terrible.
He was pretty bad, and even so, I think Cleveland's defense has been pretty amazing in these first few games, and Jordan Love made some real bonehead decisions at the end too that didn't help the Packers. So, but you have that. I think you're right though. Like, you took a look at the quarterback hits. Nick Herbig is credited with 4 quarterback hits in this game. That's insane. Derek Harmon, who finally gets on the field for the first time. Plays about half the game. We go through some snap counts too, but he gets a sack as well. TJ Watt picks up 2 of them, and a forced fumble and a fumble recovery. And it's like, hey, here's your MVP finally playing like an MVP. The old guy Cam Hayward also playing up to standard and getting a sack
up to his grown ass man standards. Yes,
punching out the ball. There were 4 forced fumbles. Cole Holcomb gets one. What did we say? Get Cole Holcomb on the field a little more. He starts this defense, and I mean, it sucks because the defense gives up 71 offensive plays, 33 minutes and 20 seconds of time of possession, 5 turnovers, and there's some of the turnovers that you're not getting anything off of because the offense can't do much of anything. You had the offense after those first 2 drives, 3 plays, 1 play, that was end of half. 3 and 3 in the third quarter with an interception and 2 punts. They punt again after 5 plays to start the fourth quarter. Then finally the touchdown, 9 plays, 67 yards, and the drive that ends the game. The Patriots had a 17-play drive, 94 yards, I think. I'll talk about Corliss Waitman. They ends up pinning them in the corner, but you're like, great, they did that, and then you know what I mean? He just couldn't stop anything. 15 plays, 83 yards. But it was good to see them finally dial up some pressure, finally get some sacks, finally hit the quarterback. These were things that weren't happening with Sam Darnold, and a lot of it was due to some new faces or some adjustments that we weren't sure that they were going to be able to make. One of those was Jabril Peppers coming in and playing in this game a fairly healthy amount too, I do believe. I'm going to look up those stats here in a second, Brian. But you had Peppers and Ramsey starting as the 2 safeties. You had Eccles on the outside. That is not how it was drawn up. Holcomb is next to Queen. You got Slay as the opposite corner. Nick Herbig's in for Alex Highsmith. And then you have Benton and Hayward. But now no more Loudermilk and some of these other guys. Now you have Derek Harmon come in off the bench. And I might as well say Y.A. Black. I saw him make some nice pressure too. I think the 2 rookies on this defensive line are going to eventually make more of a statement. They're gonna put their stamp on what this defense does as the communication starts getting cleaned up, as you get Joey Porter Jr. back, as you get Deshaun Elliott back. I'm not even worried about Alex Highsmith being back necessarily because Herbig played very well in this game. Not just the pressure, but also, the whole adage for a while has been, let's run away from TJ Watt. And that might have been working a little bit if they were running over to Alex Highsmith. Maybe not as much in this game with Herbig and the way that the defense forced the turnovers from these running backs.
Yeah, I mean, you got to get it cleaned up from the standpoint of communication. That's still, but again, so many moving parts, so many moving pieces. It is a different lineup than basically every week in the backfield right now, in the defensive backfield. When Slay got hurt, both of us are just going, "Oh my God, we can't have any more attrition."
Thank goodness he came back.
Thank goodness he was able to come back. Yeah, if we can get a couple weeks of solid health and folks not dropping and maybe get some guys back. Look, I'm encouraged by the way that the defense was able to get turnovers. Not so encouraged by the leaky nature of what they were doing, allowing basically the Patriots to run all the way up and down the field anytime they wanted at will. But you came away with a win, and as I said, an ugly win is always better than a loss.
Let me go through some snap counts here real quick, just to give you an idea of the way this came together. So Patrick Queen's the only defender who plays the entire game. All 74 defensive plays. Watt plays 85%, 63, and that's what Slay ended up doing as well. I imagine Slay plays the whole game if he doesn't get dinged there. Brandon Eccles is next up with 62 snaps. That's just one shy of Slay and TJ Watt. Brandon Eccles, okay? And he made a hell of a statement. This was a guy that everybody was talking about. Why does he get this job over Beanie Bishop? This is why he got the job over Beanie Bishop. Nick Herbig, 61 plays. So we're still north of 60. Now we go down to 56. Chuck Clark, a guy who ends up joining during training camp and was supposed to be just a role player. They used him almost kind of like they had him fill in the back, or they used him as a dime backer. They're still a little soft in the middle, but you got to wonder when Elliott comes back, maybe if that makes any kind of changes. Cam Hayward's up next with 55. Keanu Benton with 48. Julius Peppers with 43, over half of the game, 58% of the share. Cole Holcomb finally returning to 50% of playing time, almost a split with Peyton Wilson, who plays 2 fewer snaps. Derek Harmon on the pitch count. Mark Cabali nails it. It's not a pitch count when you play 35 snaps, which is almost half the game at 47%. Here's the surprising one. Juan Thornhill, only 29 reps, 39% of the game. They were doing a lot of rotation, maybe even situational type things. You get to see him play a man and up maybe a little more here or there, maybe not play so far off the ball. We talked about that, maybe making an adjustment in the future. You've got Y.A. Black playing 34% of the game. Daniel Aquale, 23% of the game, 17% former Patriot revenge game. DeMarvin Leal, 13 plays, 18%. He shows things here or there. Maybe, again, not a jack of all trades, master of none type situation. Good to have him on deck, though. Jack Sawyer, way more limited in this game, playing 11 snaps, 15%. James Pierre ends up in for 9 plays, and then Logan Lee is the final guy with any kind of statistics here with 4 plays. I don't even remember seeing Logan Lee in, but
yeah,
they played some 74 plays on defense for 74 snaps.
You were going to test your bench when you're letting that offense stay on the field that much. There's no question about it.
You ain't lying. So with those adjustments, though, that's a large amount of adjustments, and these were two wins on the road. I think that's a lot to say about this team too, and persevering. Quickly, special teams, which had been either
horrible,
a feather in their cap, or it could be bad at times. Doesn't cost them anything. Waitman had some great punts. I'll see what his net average here is in a second.
Kick return coverage was good.
New kick returners, because they brought up Trey Sermon and put Gainwell back there, which is what we were talking about them doing at the beginning of the season. No longer Caleb Johnson back there for this game. Waitman had his average was 42.3, but he had a long of 55. So 3 of those all down within the 20-yard line, which is that's good for a punting day. And I really thought this was going to come down to like that Rodgers drive with the throw to Austin. And I think that the Patriots thought this was, you talk about being conservative, playing it safe. Mike Tomlin doesn't like to overbet the pot or go all in. that Rodgers throw to Austin was doing that because the play it safe was halfback draw to Jalen Warren, wheel route Jalen Warren, hit one of the two tight ends, even though Rodgers has not been on the page with Freiermuth the entire day. Hit one of the tight ends short, get something in the middle of the field. Let's trot Chris Boswell out here, or let's just try and keep chewing a little bit of clock, force them to use their timeouts, get past the 2-minute warning, and have Boswell. No, they went straight for the victory right there. So I will give a little bit of credit where credit's due with the coaching staff, Arthur Smith, Mike Tomlin, and them making that call. So overall, that was something where they outcoached there, and sometimes that one play is all the more it matters in a game, right?
And I'm going to tell you that's situational. If we go back to another game, right, and the run's been working or the wheel route's been working, then they'll do those things, right? This is a game where I think the problem was they both know. I mean, everybody on that sideline knows we can't count on a turnover every time we get the ball, right? Every time we give the Patriots the ball back, we can't count on a turnover. We haven't been able to stop them at all. A field goal is not going to be a safe bet, right? We need a touchdown. They went for the touchdown. Give them credit for that. But I think that their hand was forced by the fact that the game situation said a 3-point lead ain't going to be safe. Not with the way our defense is playing.
Yeah, I'm with you 100% on that. I'm excited. I was excited to see Peppers ball out, man, and jump on the moving train.
It's Jabril, right? You called him Julius earlier.
Oh, geez, oh man! I'll tell you what, it's not going to be the first or the last time I do that too.
No, I know.
Julius Peppers. Well, there's a throwback. I'll tell you what, I was struggling. Panthers had Red Zone on one of the other TVs, and the Panthers are wearing their teal, and I'm trying to pay attention to, of all things, the Jaguars game fantasy stuff, right? And every time I looked, I thought it was the Jaguars playing, and I'm like, wait a minute, they don't have a guy named whoever it is, and so Julius Peppers, former Panther, Bear, former great. Oh, how about the Bears on the Cowboys? Man,
hey,
I'd say like it could always be worse. We could always
look. We got to play them too, and isn't that in Chicago?
Yeah, that team will be interesting. I was worried about that because I said if they get their act together with a new coaching staff, that's enough time to get their act together. Now, if the Steelers, they got to go overseas, so do the Vikings. Maybe the Vikings get too big a head on their shoulders or something. Maybe Carson Wentz turns back into. Carson Wentz did enough. You know what I mean? And it's not like the Bengals have this world-class defense. And then their offense wasn't able to match much of anything either and caused a lot of problems. It's all about the mistakes and the negative plays for the Steelers. They don't make these negative plays and they're still able to put some of this pressure. Maybe they get off the field a couple extra times on these third or fourth down situations. I think they might be able to handle the Vikings, and then they get to recoup and get some new things put together, installed, and whatnot when you're into the bye week. Get some guys off of IR, etc. Or healthy. I'm not sure that everybody's on IR, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. So could be a fun one, man. A little bit of a long travels. Hearing about everyone's travel trip planning, folks, drop in the comments and let us know if you're going to Dublin, Ireland for this game Sunday, 9:30 a.m. for those of you on the East Coast here. So, or is it 9 straight up 9 or 9:30? It's an early one.
9:30. I think it's 9:30.
I thought it was 9:30. What they said, NFL Network, and that'll be fun. It'll be an interesting environment. We're going to see, Steelers Nation maybe invades. They can't invade if it's already their home territory, right? This is their home market.
Exactly.
And Dan Rooney, the former U.S. ambassador to Ireland, so there's a lot of ties there. And I'm hoping for a fun environment, and I'm hoping, that the Steelers, for once again doing some travel, maybe it'll come together. I'm not going to say it's going to come together any easier, but you get a bye week. Cleveland's got to come back from over the pond too and play in Pittsburgh. So we'll see. That could be a defensive battle, but that might be the way these games end up working. I anticipate the Vikings playing some stout defense under Brian Flores. You just saw what they did with Cincinnati. So If you want to complain about these type of wins, I would complain if they were losses. I'm going to take these wins where they can get them.
Always take a win where you can get it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I'm all about the Victory Monday, man. So folks, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks once again for joining us here on the show. That'll do it for us. Brian, any closing thoughts?
No.
Yeah. I mean, we already know it was ugly. We already know we're frustrated. They can never make it easy on us. For those of us who take any kind of medications, have heart conditions, have mental conditions, we all go crazy. So watching this game, it's been a while since they've blown out someone. And I thought it was funny because there was a comment made. JJ Watt said something like one of the last wins that they had there, they actually throttled the Patriots. The word was throttled. I'm like, they ain't throttling anything right now. Like the clutch is choking. They're not moving anywhere. They're just spinning wheels. Yeah. So I didn't throttle anybody. He gave a good one-liner too. It was what had happened there. It would have worked better with I said the play at the end with who they throw that to with Eccles making the tackle. Now I got to go and look and see who it was, because
I don't remember.
That was totally a
Douglas maybe.
Deontay. That was totally a Deontay Johnson.
Totally
it was Douglas. It was a Deontay Johnson style play. Yeah. He maybe leans
forward. Go backwards and lose
closer.
The first down.
Yeah, he goes backwards. And at some point, JJ had said, "Put it in reverse, Terry." I'm like, that's what Douglas did here. Put it in reverse, Douglas. So thank you for that. Steelers get into victory formation and a final score once again, 21-14. Folks, we'll join you later this week. Hopefully from something more scenic than a hotel room. We're going to find out what we can do and come to you. I almost said live. We could. They're several hours ahead. Maybe we'll do that. Yeah. Somebody was asking about that. Usually the problem is, though, is like the way the show syncs up, and then the audio version has to get published much later. It's really only live for our YouTube folks. But if you would like to see us live while we're out there, we can maybe make that happen. So drop us a line in the comments. Let us know if you're going to be out there too. Maybe we'll meet up. We're going to be at all these different Steelers events and a few other things that we're planning on doing that are fun out there. But until that next show, until that next time, folks, my name's Joe. His name is Brian. And as we always close out this show, we encourage everyone out there to be safe, be good, and we'll catch you later.
We would like to thank you for listening and remind our listeners to follow us on social media and our website, www.steelcityunderground.com.